Hey y'all, Rick Sky here, and within this video I want to talk about septic tank. You can see the cap for my septic tank field line replacement. Now I'm going to go through the field line replacement process and then all of the post field line replacement steps that you may not have anticipated. So let's go ahead and talk through it. You can see I've got all that dirt back there. That dirt is not just there, but it extends over there too. So with field line replacement, one might falsely assume that it's just a matter of, oh, we're going to dig a line out of the ground and put another one in. No, it's probably going to rip up a large area. So if you've got nice grass, that grass is going to be gone because it's all going to be ripped up. And that's the case I had, is all my grass is gone. So I didn't necessarily anticipate that. The field lines themselves, and obviously go to a licensed septic service and they can talk you through all the minutia. But in most places, and this may vary upon country or state or whatever, but there's probably a big paperwork piece of this, and it could entail having to go to some sort of EPA office, that could be a health department, that sort of thing, and get some paperwork. And then probably a situation where you've got to sign the paperwork, where the person replacing the field lines for the septic system also has to sign the paperwork. And to add to the complexity, there's probably even a notary required because it probably has to be notarized. So there's a lot of things that have to be done ahead of simply replacing the septic tank's field lines. So things you may not consider. So if it's an emergency, number one, you're going to probably have to have all of that up front. Number two, it's probably going to have to be during regular business hours because the government typically doesn't really care about people. They just have their own schedule and they're typically lazy. So you got to deal with that. Well, once you get all the paperwork in place, then you've got to coordinate with your septic provider and schedule the replacement of the field lines. Well, it may be bad weather. That could delay it. That septic tank company could have a line full of customers. That could delay the process as well. So there's a lot of things that you probably didn't consider that come into play with this. So it's not just cut and dry. So once you've got it scheduled, once you've got the date of the field line replacement, you got to make sure that everything is moved out of the way, because as I mentioned, it's probably going to be radically destroyed, the area where they dig out the lines. That's the other thing you got to consider, is that when all of this is dug out, there's probably going to be rocks, there's probably going to be debris from the old septic lines that were in the ground. There's probably a lot of post septic tank field line cleanup tasks that you didn't anticipate. So there's a lot more to it than one would assume. Now this is important to do because if you're watching this video, you've probably got a septic problem. Hopefully you've identified a potential septic problem ahead of it becoming an issue and the septic system backing up into your house. Because when that happens, I mean, that means a few things. Number one, the septic tank is full, and it's likely full because if it's due to the field lines, they run down from the septic tank. So if they become clogged or damaged, say you had a heavy tractor or something run over them, if they can't let stuff flow out through the field lines, obviously that septic tank's going to become full. When that septic tank becomes full, then all of that's going to start to back up into the house. So it can be a very nasty and very costly disaster. So if one thinks, oh well, I'll delay the septic field line for a few more months or a few more years, that's poor logic, because the cost, even with insurance, of a massive cleanup, I mean, if a septic system backs up into a house, that probably grossly trumps the cost of replacing field lines. And like I said, all the field lines do, they're coming, there's a septic tank. You can see mine's capped. That's where they come and dump it out. I get dumped out every few years. But from that septic tank underground, where you see the dirt right there, because I just had my field lines replaced, that's where everything in the tank goes into the tank, and it just drains out through those field lines underneath the ground. So it would be, in my opinion, a poor decision to postpone something like this. Now, what I found out, and this, check with your licensed septic provider for all the details, but I found out that typically field lines may last, assuming they're not run over by a tractor, or maybe there's some sort of earthquake or something that damages them. If they're able to stay in good condition, they could last 20 or 25 years. So if you think about field line replacement, think about the possibility of how many years they might continue to function. Something else, like I said, the grass is torn up. All of that's going to have to be redone. Something I would plan ahead, if you can, of having your septic tank field lines replaced. Something I would proactively do ahead of time is have grass seed, and if you're not doing seed, sod or whatever, have it purchased and ready, because as soon as the field lines have been replaced, as soon as you've leveled out the ground, and I'm sure there's some septic tank services that'll potentially charge a little bit extra and make it perfectly level, this, that, and the other. I'm cheap, so I didn't pay for that. I just did it myself with a shovel, leveled it out. But have the grass seed ready after that, after you level the ground rather, because it'll be a good time to get the grass growing back. And keep in mind that there's probably going to be a ton of rocks, probably roots, probably pieces of the previous septic system, depending upon how professional your septic provider is. They may leave your place in shambles after they do it. But if you're like me, you would rather not incur the additional cost. You'd rather have it done by a septic professional as affordably as possible and perform the cosmetic cleanup task like planting seed, leveling the dirt, all of that yourself. But everybody's different. But take that into consideration, because if you don't have the ability or the willingness to perform that manual labor after your field lines are replaced, you're probably going to need to make arrangements either with your septic provider or somebody else to provide that service for you. Otherwise, you're just going to have a mud pit, and if you don't level it out and you don't plant grass, it's just going to be awful. So that's an additional, even if you're doing it yourself, there's the cost of the seed or the sod, and then time is money. I mean, I know everybody values their time at a certain dollar amount per hour. So I invested of my time to do all of that with the dirt after the field lines are replaced. Just my time alone, and obviously it's my time, but time is money. I invested probably a few $1,000s worth of my time to make that look good and to get the grass seed growing. The grass seed hasn't finished growing yet. You can see all that mud back there, but it's starting to grow. But that's another cost to take into consideration. And also, they may charge a pump out fee in addition to the field line replacement. So when they're replacing the field lines, if your septic tank is full or almost full, they may say, well, we gotta pump this out before we put the field lines in. So that's probably an enhancement on the cost of field line replacement. And, my best recommendation is to get all of this thoroughly documented in writing up front, and do the best of your ability, try to hopefully ensure that there hopefully won't be any hidden charges. I didn't have any hidden charges, but I'm very detail oriented. I talked through the process. I talked through how it was going to be done, when it was going to be done, making sure there weren't any additional cost. And my situation turned out great. Now, the surprise that I didn't anticipate was the amount of effort that I had to perform manual labor post field line replacement to level my ground and plant my seed. But those are things that you may not think about if you're wanting to replace your septic tank field lines due to an emergency, or if you're just saying, hey, I've had them for 18 years and I think it's probably time to replace them to potentially avoid a backed up septic tank situation. So there's a lot of different situations, but it's not something that one should do without planning. And especially if you've got a shady septic tank provider in your area, you may end up getting charged a lot more than you had anticipated. But like I said, mine was the fee for the pump out, the fee for the field line replacement, which included the field lines. Curiously enough, my septic tank did not have to be replaced. That's the same tank, but the field lines coming off of it are new. So if a septic provider says, oh, well, do you want to replace the tank too? There may not be the need to replace the tank. So you may be able to reduce cost by saying, okay, well, is the tank in good condition? If so, then there's no need to replace that, so you can reduce the cost of the septic replacement and only be paying for the field line piece. So that's a way to avoid potential charges that may not be necessary. But obviously, if your tank is in poor condition, it would probably be in your best interest, since they're going to have to dig all this up anyway. It would probably be in your best interest to go ahead and bundle in the septic tank replacement along with the septic field line replacement. And something else to take into consideration, you see that cap back there. Not all septic systems have a cap. So if you're installing not just the field lines, but the septic tanks being replaced too, you may want to consider installing a cap, because what that does, when the septic provider, and they'll provide you the recommended interval, but at whatever interval, based upon the quantity of people in your house and your tank size, that they say you should call them back to dump your septic tank, having that capped septic tank enables them to unscrew a few screws, stick their hose in, pump it all out. Whereas if you don't have a septic tank with a cap, they're having to dig before they can pump out the septic tank. So that would probably be money well spent. If you don't have a cap septic system, probably get a quote for that and see if they can, add a cap to your existing tank, or does it come with a new tank? Ask your septic professional, and that's, in my opinion, that would be a worthwhile expense, because probably, and speaking of ROI, which is return on investment, if you call various septic providers and you ask how much do you charge to pump out a septic system, probably one of the first questions they'll ask is, do you have a cap? And if you say no, well, that means they're going to have to dig. They're going to have to bring the digging equipment, this, that, and the other. And then you, as the customer, you're going to have to repair that part of your yard after they dig out so they can pump it out. So you're probably going to find that the enhanced price of them pumping out a septic system without a cap, and then you look at the price of installing a septic system with a cap, you're probably going to find that, after a few pump outs, it would have been money well spent. Not to mention, you don't have to deal with having your yard torn up every time your septic tank is pumped out. So these are just a few lessons learned. You're watching this video, you're in the same situation I was in. I'll tell you about my situation, man. I went down to my basement, and my shower and my toilet in the basement, they were backed up. It was nasty. It was raunchy. It was ooh. But lesson learned. Had it not been for that shower and that tub in the basement, that shower and that toilet in the basement, it would have first surfaced in the living area of the house. And that would have been a very nasty, very raunchy, and very costly cleanup. So when that happened, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this right, do the field lines, learn too much as a customer. I'm not a septic provider. I'm just a customer that, their shower and toilet backed up in the basement, and they had to get stuff fixed. And that's who I am. But since I've been through this, I wanted to share my backed up septic tank journey with you. And hopefully these clues and these tips will hopefully make inevitably it's a horrible situation, but hopefully it'll make your situation less of a nightmare to deal with, and hopefully there won't be any surprises. And just to recap, be sure, get everything you can in writing up front, and make sure that if you can, if there's a way to confirm that installation date as part of that process, that would be great. Because what you don't want to have is being roped out potentially days or weeks, especially if you've got a serious septic system, a septic issue that may occur soon, you don't want to sit and wait, because time is money. And you know, if it backs up, then you're out a lot of money on top of the known issue, which is having to replace the field lines. So, you know, have them make sure your tank's in good condition. You know, don't get some sleazy septic service, oh, we just want to sell them a tank too. You know, don't get that person. Ask very, very direct questions. If they say, okay, well, your septic needs to be replaced. Okay, is it structurally damaged? Why do you feel that it needs to be replaced? Why is it not in working condition? Challenge them, and they'll be like, well, and I'll tell you about probably 70% of the time, they'll probably come back and say, oh, well, actually, it was just a recommendation, and they don't have any evidence to support their belief that that the tank should be replaced in addition to the field lines. But if it really is in a degraded state, yes, I would definitely consider replacing it. And like I said, I would definitely go with a capped septic system. And even if you don't need to replace the tank, you know, ask them, hey, can you add a cap to my existing tank? They may or may not be able to. They may have to, you know, depending upon the septic provider, they may have to provide a new tank that has a cap. But the cap, over time, is well worth the extra expense, because, like I said, it's probably going to reduce the cost that a septic provider charges when they come out to pump out your septic tank. So it's a very nasty topic. Not a lot of videos on this. I mean, you know, when this happened to me, you know, I performed a deep dive research project, because I want to make sure that I knew what I was getting into. And the one thing I did not anticipate, although I should have, but how would I have known? I've never had field lines for a septic tank replaced before. I never knew how much digging there would be. I mean, I was envisioning, you know, a few holes here and there, and, you know, where they were putting the lines. No. It's a continuous dig, because they had to dig to find the old lines, and they had to pull them all out, and then they had to condition the dirt so that they could put the new lines in place. So it was a lot more involved with a bulldozer than I'd ever thought. So that was something, if I had watched this video ahead of me going through my septic tank field line replacement journey, I would have been better educated. So I hope this video helped. If it did, not required, but if it did, please feel free to send me a super thanks. You can choose to do so, not required. But down below this video's description, or title rather, there's a little button that says thanks. You can choose to click that. Send me a small tip, deeply appreciated. Also, subscribe to my channel and ring that bell, and that'll notify you whenever I post another video. And if you got any questions or comments, comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to respond to your comments and or questions within upcoming septic tank videos. Again, I'm not a septic tank installer. I'm a septic tank customer that avoided something very catastrophic by having my field lines replaced. Like I said, fortunately, I noticed the backup in the basement tub and the basement toilet. But if it hadn't been in the basement, it could have been a lot nastier and a lot costlier. So I'm happy to share anything I can as a septic tank customer, and hopefully it'll help you if you're dealing with a similar or somewhat similar situation, to better navigate all the potential pitfalls that are involved with septic tank field line replacement. So thanks for your viewership, and be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Y'all have a good day. Best of luck with your septic journey. Hey y'all, Iric Sky here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please be sure to subscribe to my channel, and when you do, ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day.